The nest egg has received a call about an item from the conductor who runs the train stations, a network of rails and underground platforms which run over much of the central membrane. Pockets of the world are separated by veins, which were difficult to traverse until the train stations started showing up and connecting the waypoints more efficiently. The item in question is too large and elusive to be brought in, so it would have to be an on-site evaluation and containing. From what the conductor has stated, the subject is a ghostly train carriage, supposedly linked to the disappearances of several individuals from the stations. The stations are a curious place. They run themselves, the trains and ticket maps operational with no staff controlling it. When in use by many folk, they are brightly lit, beautifully decorated, and an altogether lively atmosphere, everybody ready to start or end their journeys. However, they become a different world when no one is there, or shut down for the night. An eeriness creeps in, the brightly lit rooms melt into a cold darkness. The decor and furnishing decays as if the place has been abandoned for many years. It is still operational in this state, but many are hesitant to use it alone, especially with all the rumours and myths that get spread about the stations, with this ghost carriage now being added to the mix. We meet with the conductor at his office in the closest station to the nest egg to get started with the evaluation process. The conductor is a strange being. He doesn't have any real ties to the stations, as they are known to be completely self-sufficient for the most part. He just showed up one day and started maintaining it all himself, and no one really knows why. To be fair to him, he does keep everything running smoothly, which isn't easy when you're dealing with a mysterious entity as big as this one. All manner of folk use these trains, which can lead to some nasty confrontations arising, but the conductor seems quite skilled at shutting down arguments. Despite his gruff, indifferent demeanour, he is definitely passionate about this place, and seems to know more secrets about it than anyone else. We will begin by interviewing the conductor about the subject and victims to gain as much information as possible. Here is an extract from the statement he has provided about the incidents. These are the ones I know have gone missing, but there could be more. I've pinned posters in all the stations I can. To be honest, I don't know what that'll do, since no one has even contacted me to report them missing. Who knows, maybe they're ghosts themselves. First noticed something was off after reviewing some overnight footage about an unrelated incident. Fast forward and spot one of the missing victims all by themselves at the ticket map. Looks like they were still deciding where to go. I thought to myself they were out of luck since the station shut down at midnight and they'd missed the cut-off point. Strange thing is, despite the time and having not bought a ticket, a single train carriage rolls in and stops at the platform. Something you need to know about the trains is that they will not stop unless you've bought a ticket, and this passenger was the only one in the station at the time. They get on the carriage, door closes, and it leaves. I was curious, so I thought I'd follow the carriage along the rails and using the surveillance, but this is where it gets strange. Carriage heads into a tunnel, never comes out the other side. I head out straight away and check the tunnel out. No other routes, no secret exits, and there's no cameras in there for me to look at. I head back, take a closer look at this train carriage in the footage. That's when I realise I've never seen it before. The stations have this handy mapping system I can use. Shows all the routes, destinations, and it tracks every known train carriage with these little lights. I also have everyone noted down in my records. Check all of it, and this carriage isn't one of them. No lights, no records, nothing. It was using the rails whilst everything was shut down for the night, and then just vanishes into thin air. I decided to check all the footage after midnight in other stations. I realised this wasn't the first incident. All these passengers were alone in a station, never buy a ticket, but this train shows up and takes them away. I've traced the first vanishing to back over 2 years ago so far, but it could go back even further, maybe even to when these stations first showed up. Most recent victim I could find was this little one, who stayed after closing a few nights ago. Seems like they were using the place as shelter for the night, which I don't mind as long as they don't cause trouble. Surprised they wanted to stay in a station after midnight. Usually spooks a lot of other folk, especially with all the creepy stories everyone spreads around all the time. Poor kid looked lost, sat there all alone. And of course that train shows up, they board it, and it disappears. Don't really understand why these people are even getting on that thing, or why no one has reported any of these victims missing. It's been happening all over the stations right under my nose this whole time, and I've only found out about it by chance. Anyway, that's the current situation. I don't really know what this thing is, seems to vanish without a trace. I can't have passengers going missing, so I need you to get it off the rails as fast as possible. From this statement, we have learnt that an unknown number of folk boarded this train alone after the stations had closed for the night over a number of years, the most recent happening only a few days ago, and none of them have been seen since. I'll send over all the profiles the conductor's given us and have Tala run background checks, try and figure out who they are. There may be a correlation between them all, and this can help us determine the best candidate for capturing it. We can also conclude that this carriage is not a part of the stations, which the conductor has assured us on. At first glance from the footage, nothing seems unusual about it cosmetically. The rails have a variety of trains differing slightly in style, with new ones occasionally being added in the roster personally by the stations. However, they are always lit up on the map, whereas this one isn't. Seems like it's hijacked the system, using the rails to claim unsuspecting victims. I've asked the conductor to completely shut down the rails so that we can examine the network and try to bait this carriage out in the open, removing it before another incident can happen. He warns us that the stations has a mind of its own and can be a little temperamental to shutting down early, but he's agreed to do it for our investigation. It just can't be for very long. He tells us there are a few open air platforms which he can't stop anyone from entering, but he'll try shutting down the ticket maps. The train won't stop there if no one has bought a ticket. Here is a sample of the evaluator's notes for the plan of extraction and housing of the subject. The carriage cannot be evaluated easily, as it only appears after hours to claim a victim, so I'm not certain if the method of extraction will be successful. However, I have devised a rough plan of action which will be carried out. Whatever our method is, it cannot harm the station's structure. The conductor warns us it could cause permanent damage. We'll need to entice the carriage out in the open. This will require someone to pose as a passenger for the carriage to stop for after hours. Once we figure out more about the victims, we can find someone who hopefully fits this profile. The carriage will only target one individual at a time, so they will have to secure the subject alone. This is a large item, so we will need something to contain it. The main problem we have is it cannot be discerned how powerful this entity is, since we can't get a closer look at it. From what I can tell, it definitely has a level of self-awareness, sensing specific victims to claim in the night. Whether they enter the carriage willingly or are forcefully lured in isn't clear from just the footage. I am also concerned about what it does with the victims. Does it completely consume them, trap them somewhere, draw off their essence and matter? Cannot be said for sure, so we need to use something powerful to contain it, if only one of us can be there. I believe a Tempest teapot should do the trick. They're rare devices which can hold even the strongest of entities no matter the size, although the duration of capture does depend on how powerful the entity is. Unfortunately, each one is a one-time use and will shatter, letting the trapped entity escape. However, I think it will work fine for this case. The wielder of the teapot can extend the duration of entrapment, but it will take a lot of focus and energy. The station we have set up in isn't far from the nest egg, so as long as we're swift, we'll get back before it shatters. Once it's secured, theoretically, I don't think it'll be able to do much without having the rails to utilise. We can hopefully be able to conduct a full evaluation and house it in a secure vault. Whatever has happened to these victims is a complete mystery. They may even have been consumed by this carriage to strengthen it, which I hope isn't the case. I'm not sure yet what can be done about them, but our priority right now is to prevent any further incidents.